After I was kidnapped, my whole family was relieved because the kidnappers had mistaken me for my sister Bella, who was supposed to be the target. When the police rescued me, I was bleeding from almost every pore on my body. I didn't cry or make a fuss. I developed emotional indifference syndrome and could no longer feel sad about anything happening around me. I felt more at ease than I had on any previous day. They all regretted it and begged me to return to my former self. When I returned home from the hospital, there was no one in the house. Even the furniture had been moved out. Unable to contact my family, I called the housekeeper and found out they had moved to a new place. I went to the address she gave me. The whole family was already sitting at the dining table, ready to eat. Seeing me return, everyone at the table looked a bit uncomfortable. Why didn't you tell me you were moving? I asked. Well, your sister has been having nightmares lately about being kidnapped, Mom said casually, as if discussing the day's menu. I figured the old house might have some bad energy, so we changed locations. Your sister has a delicate constitution. It's good you're back. Sit down and join us for dinner. The table was full of Bella's favorite dishes. My face was covered in thick bandages, and I walked with a limp. But no one seemed to care. In the past, I would have been very upset by this. But now I felt nothing. My emotions were gone. Seeing me sit down calmly, Bella suddenly leaned over. I've been so scared these past few days. I didn't even dare to go out. That's why I couldn't visit you in the hospital. Mom and Dad were worried I might get kidnapped, too, so they had to stay home with me. You don't blame me, do you, Arya? Before I could respond, Dad jumped in. It's not a big deal. You two are sisters. Can't you understand each other? I didn't know how to react. I was the one who had actually been kidnapped. Bella let out a hearty laugh. Heh. I was just afraid Arya might overthink things. She picked up a shrimp and put it in my bowl. Anyway, Arya has always been so independent and much braver than me. I really admire people with guts like that. I silently put down my chopsticks. I'm allergic to shrimp. Not a single person at the table remembered. My name is Arya, born on July 7th. My sister's name is Bella. We are full-blooded sisters. Believe it or not, a fortune teller said my fate was inauspicious and I shouldn't be raised at home. So my parents sent me to live with my grandparents in the countryside. For many years, they hardly ever came to see me. It wasn't until my grandparents passed away that they brought me back home. I returned with high hopes, but I quickly realized this home didn't belong to me. The day I was kidnapped, Bella had insisted on taking a shortcut through a deserted alley. After walking a bit, she said she needed to find a restroom and told me to wait right there for her. The next thing I knew, I lost consciousness. I will never forget what happened during that time. Worthless trash. The kidnappers growled as their fists rained down on me, venting their anger. Had mistaken me for Bella and kidnapped the wrong person. My family refused to pay the ransom for me, so the kidnappers couldn't get a single cent. I was starved for 3 days and tortured for 3 days. My throat was so raw, I couldn't make a sound. When the police burst in, the kidnappers were about to strip off my clothes. Blood obscured my vision, but I still strained to look behind the officers. No one was there. Not a single family member had come. I wanted to cry, but no tears would come. The doctor said I had post-traumatic stress disorder, specifically manifesting as a loss of emotions. Medically, it's also called emotional indifference syndrome. The hospital room was empty after the police officer in charge of the case left. No one else came to visit. People at the dinner table treated me like I was invisible. The three of them chatted and laughed, looking like the picture of a happy family. In the past, I would have tried hard to join their conversation, but today I did nothing. I'm done eating, I said casually, wiping my hands on a napkin. Which room am I staying in? Mom looked startled for a moment before responding. The other rooms haven't been set up yet. Arya, don't blame Mom and Dad. They've been so busy lately, they can barely keep up with everything. Bella said, acting protective of our parents while subtly implying I was being unreasonable. She had done this many times before, I countered. Did I say I blamed them? I gently put down the hand towel and said flatly, then I'll just pick an empty room. Enjoy your meal. As I slowly walked upstairs, I could hear my parents' conversation. Where did she get this prickly attitude from? Bella, don't take it to heart. Here, have some of the pigeon soup I made. You haven't tried it yet. Bella went along with it. My sisters. Probably just shaken up by what happened. Mom disagreed. What does she have to be shaken up about? She came back just fine, didn't she? I closed the bedroom door. That evening, Noah came home. He's not the Wilsons' biological child. He was adopted by my parents. Bella and I call him our brother. I had always dreamed of having an older brother to stand in front of me and protect me. Noah did fit all my imaginations of a good big brother. Except he protected Bella towards me, who suddenly appeared and took away some of Bella's attention. He was full of hostility from the moment he walked in. Noah didn't spare me a single glance. The lack of welcome was written all over his face. How had I been so blind before? Even when he treated me this way, I always tried to get close to him, fussing over him and giving him gifts. I envied Bella, and was jealous that she had the whole family's love. But now that all those emotions had disappeared, their behavior seemed forced and uninteresting to me. I felt a bit hungry. Noticing I hadn't greeted him, Noah gave me a couple extra glances. Hey, I don't want your stuff, he said, pulling out an elegantly wrapped gift bag. I recognized it as the birthday present I had chosen for him. It was a jade pendant I had polished and carved myself. I had given him many gifts, and each one was publicly returned to me. Both seemed to enjoy the process of trampling on my dignity. My attention completely elsewhere. The food was all laid out, but I had no appetite. The table was full of seafood. There wasn't a single dish I could eat. Just looking at it made my wounds ache. Noah was taken aback. In the past, this girl would always beg him to keep her gifts. This time she agreed so readily. Was she playing some new trick to get the family's attention? Brother, what did Arya give you? Her hand already unwrapping the gift before he could answer. Oh, what a beautiful jade pendant. Arya must have put a lot of thought into it. Brother, you should keep it. Noah pressed his lips together. Keep it? Wouldn't that mean he was accepting this person? She was the reason Bella felt insecure and cried countless nights. I'll never accept anything from her. Take it back, he said to me, his tone breaking. No refusal. My stomach was hurting from hunger. Faced with a table full of seafood, I couldn't eat. I just wanted to go out and get something else. I had barely stood up when Noah, taking it as me being unwilling to face him, grabbed my wrist. Take your stuff back. Bella gave me a look that said she was enjoying the show. According to past patterns, I should be crying by now. Just throw it away, I said. What? Seeing that no one was moving, I took the jade pendant and tossed it in the trash. I said, if you don't want it, throw it away. I'm leaving now. Everyone at the table fell silent. This version of me was too unfamiliar to them. I ignored them and directly left the table. Noah felt a bit unsettled watching that annoying figure gradually disappear. It was as if something had quietly slipped out of control. Bella glanced at Noah, her hand gripping her chopsticks tightly. I went out and ate to my heart's content. When I got back home, Mom and Dad were sitting in the living room waiting for me. Come here. I have something to say to you, Dad said. I could probably guess what they wanted to talk about. Since I came back, the two of them had barely spoken to me. The few times they did, it was always about wanting me to go on blind dates. For an arranged marriage, money always circulates among a small group of people, and it's common for wealthy families to form connections through marriage. I just didn't want Bella to do these things. Besides, Noah and Bella had grown close over time, and showed signs of mutual affection. My parents were unwilling to disrupt that, so they had put off the idea. However, my return solved this problem. The unfavored second daughter was the perfect tool. Arya, the youngest son of the Cloud family, has returned from abroad. You two are about the same age. Why don't you meet up sometime, have dinner and chat? Mom added. After what happened to you, your father and I were so worried. We thought if you had a man by your side to protect you, we'd feel much more at ease. I had always refused these kinds of arrangements. These rich kids grew up living decadent lifestyles, and were involved in all sorts of unsavory business. Mom and Dad clearly didn't care about my well-being at all, which had upset me for a long time. But now it didn't matter. If meeting once could shut them up, that would be best. I nodded. Okay, when should we meet? They seemed surprised that I agreed so readily. The long lecture they had prepared had nowhere to go. Both of them paused awkwardly before Dad recovered. First, tomorrow at noon, at the restaurant owned by Cloud Corporation. If he takes the liking to you, that would be great. But it's fine if he doesn't. They're not just any ordinary wealthy family. I nodded. The atmosphere fell silent again. Is there anything else? I asked. No, that's all, Mom said. I got up to go upstairs, my movements quick and decisive. Mom and Dad exchanged a glance, both seeing complex emotions in each other's eyes. This girl has been acting strange lately. I hope she's not planning anything, Dad said. I'll have the housekeeper keep an eye on her. We can't let her cause trouble for the family, Mom replied. If only she was half as sensible as Bella. How could she compare to the daughter we raised ourselves? I let out a soft laugh. Right. Only Bella was our daughter in their eyes. I met the blind date, Zach, one afternoon. He was leaning against the driver's side window, lighting a cigarette but not smoking it. He didn't like smoking, but felt compelled to maintain an image of vice. When the cigarette burned out, he messed up his hair and got out of the car. I happened to witness this whole scene. The impossibly handsome young man unbuttoned the top 2 buttons of his shirt and slouched in his chair with an air of decadence. Hello, are you Zach? I went over to greet him. And you're Arya? He hesitated, as if wondering what kind of girl would have such an unusual name. I heard you've turned down a lot of people before, I asked. Can't say I've turned them down when I've never even met them, he replied. He suddenly smiled. I guess that makes you pretty special. What's your take on this arranged marriage business? He asked. What can I say? My life is worthless, so my family calls all the shots. The kidnapping incident hadn't spread, but Zach surely knew about it. He gave me a meaningful look. Miss Wilson, you and I are the same kind of people. He raised his glass, wanting to toast with me. I pushed my glass away. Not quite. I'd like to eat first. Zach paused for a moment, then rested his chin on his hand with a slight smile. Let's eat first. I sighed. I had hoped to encounter an idiot, but instead I met someone with more schemes than a beehive has holes. As soon as I finished eating and parted ways with Zach, I received a message from my parents. The Cloud family was very satisfied with me and hoped to proceed with the marriage soon. I had miscalculated. I had only intended to find some fool to cooperate with me, so my parents would stop forcing me to go on blind dates. Who knew I'd end up meeting Zach and digging myself into a big hole? The next morning, my parents called me downstairs before breakfast. Dad looked unusually serious. Arya, there's something we need to discuss. I sat across from them and waited. Mom placed a folder on the table. Zach's family wants to move forward with the engagement. I stared at the folder. So soon? They were very impressed with you, Dad said. The Cloud family is powerful, and this marriage would benefit everyone. I almost laughed. Everyone. That word always seemed to mean everyone except me. What does Zach think? I asked. Dad hesitated. He agrees. That was when I understood. Zach wasn't some fool trapped in an arranged marriage. He had chosen this. And judging from yesterday's conversation, he had probably known exactly what kind of situation I was in. I opened the folder. Inside was a preliminary marriage agreement. My parents had already negotiated the financial terms. My dowry, the Wilson family's contribution, the Cloud family's expectations, even the wedding date. Everything had been arranged without asking me. I flipped through the pages calmly. Then I stopped. There was one clause that caught my attention. Upon marriage, Arya Wilson will transfer control of her personal inheritance assets to the Wilson family until the birth of an heir. I looked up. What is this? Mom's expression changed. It's standard. For whom? She didn't answer. Dad cleared his throat. You're overthinking it. Once you're married, the family assets will remain within the family. I smiled. Which family? Dad's face tightened. Arya. I asked a simple question. For the first time, neither of them had an immediate answer. I closed the folder. I'll marry him. Mom blinked. You agree? Yes. The relief on their faces was almost funny. They had expected an argument. A tantrum. Maybe tears. Instead, I stood up. But I have one condition. Dad frowned. What condition? I want the marriage contract rewritten. What? I won't transfer my inheritance to anyone. Mom's expression hardened. Arya, don't be difficult. I'm not. I smiled. I'm protecting my property. Dad stared at me. You've changed. Yes. I walked toward the stairs. And you should be grateful. Why? I turned around. Because the old Arya would have begged you to love her. Neither of them spoke. I went upstairs. Behind the bedroom door, I pulled out my phone. There was one unread message. From Zach. You agreed to the marriage. I typed back. Apparently you did too. His reply came almost immediately. Then we have a problem. I smiled. Why? 3 dots appeared. then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally he sent. Because I didn't agree to marry you. I stared at the screen. A second message arrived. I agreed to help you escape your family. My smile disappeared. For the first time since returning home, something stirred inside me. Not fear, not sadness, curiosity. I called him. He answered on the first ring. What exactly are you planning? Zach laughed softly. I was wondering when you'd ask. Tell me. I knew your parents would use you as a substitute for Bella. I remained silent. They've already started contacting several families, he continued. You're being treated like an asset they're trying to liquidate. So I offered them the most profitable deal. My eyes narrowed. Marriage. Exactly. You're going to marry me just to protect me? No. His voice became serious. I'm going to marry you so your parents lose control over you. I froze. Once you're legally married into the Cloud family, they can't force you into another arrangement. They can't touch your inheritance. And if they try to interfere, they'll be going against the Clouds. I looked toward my bedroom door. For years, I'd wanted my family to choose me. Now someone was offering me something much more useful. Freedom. What do you get? Zach chuckled. There she is. What? The first question you should have asked. I waited. I get access to the Wilson family's internal business network. My expression changed. So that's what you want? Partly. What does partly mean? He went quiet. Then he said, your kidnapping wasn't random. My fingers tightened around the phone. I know. No, Arya. His voice dropped. You don't. The kidnappers mistook me for Bella. That's what they told the police. I sat up straighter. What are you saying? I investigated them. My heart should have raced. Instead, my mind became strangely clear. What did you find? They weren't ordinary kidnappers. He paused. They had information about your family. Who hired them? I don't know yet. And Bella? Another pause. That's the interesting part. What? The kidnappers didn't know Bella personally. I frowned. They had her photograph. Yes. Then what's strange? The photograph wasn't taken recently. My grip tightened. How old was it? 7 years. I stared at the wall. 7 years ago, Bella and I had barely known each other. I had still been living with my grandparents. Zach continued. Someone had been preparing for this kidnapping for a long time. I felt nothing. No panic. No tears. Just a strange emptiness. So they weren't looking for Bella that day. No. Then who were they looking for? Zach's voice became quiet. That's what I'm trying to figure out. I looked at the family portrait hanging outside my bedroom. Bella stood in the center. Mom and Dad stood beside her. Noah stood behind them. And I was at the edge. Half hidden. Almost cropped out. I stared at the picture for several seconds. Then I noticed something I'd never noticed before. The photograph had been edited. My body was slightly farther away from everyone else. My eyes narrowed. Zach. Yeah. Send me everything you found. Already did. My phone buzzed. A file appeared. I opened it. The first page contained a photograph of the kidnappers. The second contained their financial records. The third contained a list of phone numbers. Then I saw a familiar name. Wilson family household. My eyes stopped moving. Below it was a phone number. The same number my mother had used to call the housekeeper. I stared at the screen. Then another message appeared from Zach. Arya, don't tell your parents yet. I typed. Why? His response came quickly. Because one of them may have known you were going to be kidnapped. I looked at the family portrait again. For the first time since my emotions disappeared, I felt something. Not sadness. Not fear. Something sharper. Interest. I zoomed in on Bella's face. Then on Dad's. Then Mom's. And finally Noah's. Someone in this family knew. And tomorrow, I was going to find out who. The next morning, Mom and Dad handed me the marriage contract. They had already arranged everything. The Cloud family wanted the wedding within a month. I flipped through the papers until I found the clause that mattered. My inheritance would be transferred to my parents until I produced an heir. I looked up. You want me to sign this? Dad frowned. It's standard. For your daughters? He went silent. I smiled. Then I'll marry Zach. They looked stunned. They had expected me to refuse. But I'm changing the contract. Mom's expression darkened. Arya. My inheritance stays mine. Dad slammed his hand against the table. Don't be difficult. I'm not being difficult. I stood. I'm finally being sensible. I returned to my room and immediately received a message from Zach. So you agreed? I replied. Apparently you did too. His answer came seconds later. I never agreed to marry you. I frowned. Then another message arrived. I agreed to help you escape your family. I called him. What are you planning? I knew your parents would use you as a replacement for Bella. And you offered yourself as the solution? Exactly. He explained everything. Once I married into the Cloud family, my parents couldn't control my inheritance or force me into another marriage. They could no longer treat me like disposable property. What do you want in return? Zach laughed. There you are. What? The old Arya would have asked whether I liked her. I said nothing. I want access to your family's business records. So this is a business deal. Partly. What does the other part involve? His voice became serious. Your kidnapping wasn't random. I froze. The kidnapper said they mistook you for Bella, he continued. That's not true. How do you know? I investigated them. He sent me a file. Inside were photographs, bank records, phone numbers and surveillance reports. Then I saw something that made me stop breathing. A payment had been made to one of the kidnappers 3 days before my abduction. The sender was hidden, but the contact number was familiar. It belonged to someone inside my family. Who? I don't know yet. I stared at the number. Then another message appeared. Don't tell your parents. Someone in that house knew you were going to be taken. I looked toward the family portrait hanging outside my room. Mom, Dad, Bella, Noah. One of them had known. And suddenly my kidnapping didn't look like a tragic mistake anymore. It looked planned. I grabbed my coat. Zach called. Where are you going? To find out who betrayed me. Arya, don't do anything reckless. I smiled. You're misunderstanding me. I opened the door. I don't need revenge. I glanced back at the family portrait. I just need the truth. And for the first time, I realized something terrifying. If my family had deliberately allowed me to be kidnapped, then Bella might never have been the target at all. I went downstairs and found Bella sitting beside Mom, scrolling through her phone. The moment she saw me, she smiled. Arya, where are you going? Out. To see Zach. Yes. Her smile stiffened. Mom immediately looked up. You're already getting attached to him? No. I picked up my keys. We're getting married anyway. Bella's fingers tightened around her phone. Already? I looked at her. You seemed happy about my marriage yesterday. I am. She smiled again. But I just didn't expect it to happen so quickly. Neither did I. I walked toward the door. Dad suddenly called after me. Arya. I stopped. Don't interfere with Bella's life after you marry into the Cloud family. I turned around. What does that mean? Exactly what it sounds like. I laughed softly. Dad, you really think I care about Bella's life? He looked uncomfortable. I left before he could answer. Zach was waiting outside. He looked at me for a few seconds. You found something? Yes. I handed him my phone. The number belongs to someone in my family. He examined it. Where did you get this? From the file you sent. His expression changed. I didn't send you the full report. I froze. What? I sent you the first 3 pages. He took my phone. This 4th page wasn't in my file. We stared at each other. Someone had sent me additional evidence. But who? Then another notification appeared. You want the truth? Come to the old Wilson house tonight. Come alone. I showed Zach. No. I'm going. Absolutely not. I don't feel fear anymore. That doesn't make you invincible. I smiled. Then come with me. He sighed. Fine. That night, we returned to the old house. The building had been completely emptied. The place where I'd been kidnapped was still stained with traces of the past. Zach searched the rooms while I walked through the hallway. Then I noticed something. A loose floorboard. I crouched down and pulled it up. Underneath was a small metal box. Inside was a photograph. My photograph. I was about 10 years old. Beside it was a handwritten note. Arya Wilson, primary subject. My heart should have stopped. Instead, I simply stared. Zach. He came over. His face turned grim. This is old. How old? About 8 years. I looked at the photograph. 8 years ago, I had still been living with my grandparents. Someone had been watching me long before I returned to the Wilson family. Then I found another photograph. This one showed Bella. Underneath her picture was written, secondary subject. I looked at Zach. They weren't targeting Bella. No. They were targeting both of us. Before he could answer, footsteps echoed upstairs. Someone was inside. Zach immediately pulled me behind him. A figure appeared at the end of the hallway. It was Noah. He stared at the box in my hands. Then his face went pale. Where did you find that? I stood up. You know what it is. Noah didn't answer. Who made this? Still nothing. I stepped closer. Did you know I was going to be kidnapped? His expression cracked. No. Then why do you look terrified? He swallowed. Because I know who did it. I stared at him. Who? Noah looked toward the door. Then he whispered. Your grandfather. I froze. My grandfather died 3 years ago. I know. Then how could he have arranged it? Noah's eyes filled with guilt. Because he didn't die 3 years ago. My blood ran cold. What? He disappeared. Noah looked at the photograph in my hand. Your family has been lying to you about almost everything. Then the light suddenly went out. A car engine roared outside. Noah grabbed my arm. Run. I pulled away. Why? He looked toward the window. Because they know we found the box. A second later, the front door exploded inward. Someone had come for us. And this time, I wasn't the only person they wanted. The front door crashed open. 3 masked men rushed inside. Zach grabbed my hand. Back door. Noah shoved a table in their path while we ran. We barely escaped through the kitchen before the men caught up. Outside, Zach dragged us into his car and sped away. Noah was breathing heavily. I stared at him. Start talking. He hesitated. Your grandfather discovered something about the Wilson family years ago. What? The family fortune wasn't built legally. Your grandfather wanted to expose them. And your parents stopped him. I stared at him. Noah continued. They sent you to your grandparents because they wanted you away from the family business. Then why bring me back? Because 3 years ago, your grandfather disappeared. And they needed someone else to take the blame? Noah nodded. They brought you home because your grandfather left everything to you. I laughed. So that's why they suddenly wanted their unwanted daughter back. Zach glanced at me through the rearview mirror. There's more. Noah looked ashamed. Bella knew. I turned around. She knew what? Your kidnapping was supposed to scare you into signing away your inheritance. My expression didn't change. They were never going to rescue me. No. They expected the kidnappers to release me after my parents refused the ransom? Noah lowered his head. They didn't expect you to survive. The car became silent. I looked out the window. 3 days of starvation. 3 days of torture. My family had known. And they had chosen Bella. I felt nothing. That was almost worse. I pulled out my phone and called Dad. He answered immediately. Arya, where are you? Dad. Yes. I know everything. Silence. Then his voice changed. What are you talking about? The inheritance. Another pause. You've misunderstood. Grandpa. The line went completely silent. I smiled. That's what I thought. Dad hung up. I looked at Zach. Take me home. He frowned. Are you sure? Yes. I wanted to see their faces. When I arrived, everyone was waiting. Mom, Dad, Bella, and Noah. Bella immediately started crying. Arya, please don't misunderstand us. I walked past her. Save your tears. She froze. I placed the inheritance documents on the table. You wanted me to sign these, right? Dad stared at them. You're giving up? No. I smiled. I'm changing the terms. I had already contacted a lawyer. Every asset my grandfather had left me was now protected. The Wilson family couldn't touch a cent. Then I dropped another document on the table. A police report. Their faces changed. I've reopened the kidnapping investigation. Mom went pale. Dad stood up. You wouldn't dare. I looked directly at him. You're right. I smiled. I wouldn't. I turned toward the door. I already did. Behind me, Bella began screaming. Dad's phone started ringing. Then Mom's. Then Noah's. The police had begun searching the Wilson family's accounts. Their hidden companies. They're offshore transfers. And the payments made before my kidnapping. Everything began collapsing within hours. Bella was the first to break. She confessed that she'd known the kidnappers were watching us. Dad admitted he'd refused the ransom. Mom admitted she'd helped hide the financial records. And Noah confessed that he'd discovered the truth months ago but stayed silent. They were all arrested. The Wilson family empire collapsed within weeks. As for Bella, the sister everyone had protected, she ended up testifying against our parents to save herself. It didn't work. Zach kept his promise. He never treated me like a damaged girl who needed saving. He treated me like an equal. Eventually, we canceled the arranged marriage. Neither of us needed it anymore. One afternoon, we stood outside my grandparents' old house. Zach looked at me. So, what are you going to do now? I smiled. For once. I looked at the house. Whatever I want. And I meant it. The girl who had once begged her family to love her was gone. The woman standing there didn't need their love anymore.